Have you ever noticed that, as we age, the dynamics in our relationships with our partners can shift in ways we didn't expect? For many women, especially after they pass a certain age, it can feel as though something changes in their connection with their husbands. Perhaps you found yourself questioning, why do I start feeling more distant from my husband as we both get older? Or maybe, over time, you notice small annoyances starting to feel bigger, and the bond that once felt unbreakable starts to feel different. Now, I want to assure you that this isn't necessarily a bad thing, nor does it mean your relationship is doomed. But there is a very practical reason why many women start to feel this shift as they get older, and it's important to understand what's happening so that you can approach it in a healthy, proactive way. As we age, certain biological and psychological changes occur that can alter the way we interact with the people around us, especially our spouses. In this video, we're going to discuss the 5 primary reasons why older women often begin to feel differently about their husbands, and more importantly, how you can address these changes in a positive, empowering way that strengthens the relationship. These are practical insights backed by science and personal experience, and I hope they'll help you gain a deeper understanding of the shifts you might be feeling. Let's dive into the first reason, which is rooted in biological changes that happen naturally as we age. 1. Hormonal changes and their impact on your emotional connection. As women age, particularly as they enter menopause and beyond, there is a significant shift in hormone levels. We all know that menopause brings changes to the body, but what many don't realize is how much these hormonal fluctuations affect our emotions and the way we connect with others, especially with those closest to us, like our spouses. Think about it. When we're younger, our hormones are in their prime, and they play a huge role in driving the way we interact with the world. Hormones like estrogen and oxytocin, often called the love hormone, are responsible for feelings of affection, connection, and intimacy. But as we age, particularly post-menopause, estrogen levels drop, and this can lead to changes in mood, energy levels, and even the way we perceive our relationships. Linda, for example, is 67 years old. She started feeling more irritable and less affectionate toward her husband, Greg. She used to enjoy their quiet evenings together, but now she found herself feeling distant and irritated by small things he would do, like leaving his shoes by the door or making little noise when he was eating. She couldn't quite put her finger on it until she visited her doctor, who explained that the hormonal changes she was going through were likely amplifying her emotional reactions. Linda's experience isn't uncommon. Many women report a decrease in sexual desire, a shift in how they view their partners, and an increase in irritability as estrogen levels decrease. It's a natural part of aging, but understanding that it's hormonally driven can help you not take these changes too personally. It's not necessarily that you love your spouse any less. It's that your body is going through a process that's affecting the way you feel emotionally and physically. So, what can you do about it? First, talking about it with your spouse is key. Open communication about what you're feeling can help both of you understand that these changes are natural and not a reflection of your love for each other. You might also want to explore natural supplements or hormone replacement therapy under the guidance of your healthcare provider to help manage symptoms. And don't forget the importance of self-care. Taking care of your mental and physical health during this time can help reduce irritability and improve overall well-being. 2. Changing priorities as you enter later stages of life. As we get older, our priorities in life tend to shift. The things that once seemed so important, like work or raising children, often take a back seat to other concerns such as health, personal fulfillment, and finding peace in our relationships. For many women in their 60s and 70s, this change in focus can lead to new desires and needs within a marriage, and sometimes those desires clash with the status quo. Take Carol, a 72-year-old woman who spent most of her adult life caring for her family. Now that her children are grown and living on their own, Carol is beginning to focus more on herself, on her hobbies, her interests, and her personal well-being. Meanwhile, her husband, Tom, hasn't changed as much. He's still focused on the same routines and habits he had when they were raising their children. Over time, Carol started to feel like they were drifting apart. She wanted to travel, explore new hobbies, and enjoy life more fully, but Tom seemed content staying home, watching TV, and doing things the way they always had. This shift in priorities is something that happens for many couples as they age, and it's completely natural. You might find that you've spent so many years putting your partner's needs or your children's needs first that now you're seeking more personal freedom and fulfillment. This is where the disconnect can happen. It's not that one partner has changed their feelings for the other, but rather that they've started wanting different things out of life at this stage. If you're experiencing this shift, self-reflection is important. Take time to think about what you want in this next chapter of your life. Communicate your desires openly with your partner. If you're feeling the need to change things up, whether it's a new hobby, travel, or a change in daily routines, bring your spouse into the conversation. Finding common ground and creating shared experiences in this new chapter of life can rejuvenate your connection and help you both navigate these changes together. 3. Health concerns and physical limitations. The reality is, as we age, our bodies don't function the way they once did. For many women, health problems become more frequent, and chronic conditions start to take hold. These changes can affect everything from daily energy levels to overall emotional well-being, and in many cases, they can begin to alter the relationship dynamic. For instance, let's think about Margaret, a 72-year-old woman who used to be very active. She loved hiking, swimming, and spending time outdoors with her husband, Joe. However, in the past few years, Margaret has been dealing with arthritis and back pain, making it harder for her to engage in the physical activities she once enjoyed. These limitations have not only been physically frustrating, but have also affected her emotionally. Margaret has always been someone who took pride in being able to keep up with her husband, but now she finds herself unable to join him on his weekend walks. Joe, still healthy and active, continues to enjoy these activities alone, and this creates an emotional gap between them. Margaret starts to feel like a burden, and unintentionally, that distance between them grows. Joe, while sympathetic to her condition, doesn't always fully grasp the emotional toll these physical changes are taking on Margaret. This disconnect, based on the challenges of physical aging, is something many couples face. When physical health issues arise, especially ones that limit mobility or energy, couples often struggle to adapt to new routines. The partner who is still able-bodied may find it difficult to slow down and adapt to a new lifestyle, while the partner dealing with limitations may feel left behind, frustrated, or even resentful. This doesn't necessarily mean they love each other less. It's a natural response to changes that are hard to adjust to emotionally and physically. But the key here is communication. Margaret could sit down with Joe and express her feelings, explaining that it's not just about physical limitations, but also about feeling left out and disconnected. This kind of open communication can help the couple figure out ways to adjust their routines and find activities that they can both enjoy together, even if they're not as physically demanding as before. It's also a reminder for both partners to practice patience and empathy, which is crucial when health issues arise in a marriage. 4. Financial stress and retirement. Another challenge many older couples face is the transition into retirement. Retirement brings with it a significant lifestyle change, and it can affect a marriage in more ways than one. For many women, retirement offers the opportunity to explore new hobbies and interests, but it can also lead to financial uncertainty, especially if a couple hasn't planned carefully for their retirement years. Financial strain can affect both partners' emotional well-being, and if not managed properly, it can create stress that seeps into the relationship. Let's take Marilyn and her husband, Ted, for example. Ted retired 2 years ago, and Marilyn, who is still working part-time, has noticed a shift in their relationship since his retirement. While Ted is enjoying the freedom retirement brings, he's also become a bit more focused on their finances, and he worries about how long their savings will last. On the other hand, Marilyn, who feels more confident about her finances, is still adjusting to Ted's newfound concerns. They both have different financial mindsets. Marilyn feels that they should spend their time traveling and enjoying life, while Ted feels that they need to cut back on expenses and save as much as possible. These conflicting priorities have created some tension between them. Marilyn feels frustrated because she doesn't understand why Ted is so concerned, while Ted feels anxious about their financial future and wants to be more cautious. This is a common issue that many couples experience as they transition into retirement. The changes in financial dynamics, especially if one partner has been the primary earner or has managed the finances, can create an emotional divide. Retirement can also bring up feelings of loss of purpose for some individuals, particularly if they had identified strongly with their work. If the two partners are not aligned in their outlook on spending, saving, or how they want to spend their time, these differences can cause strain. For Marilyn and Ted, they need to have an open conversation about their financial goals and how they want to spend their retirement. Setting mutual goals, whether it's about how they spend money, where they travel, or how they balance their time, can help bridge the gap. This open dialogue can lead to a compromise and create an atmosphere of understanding and cooperation. After all, retirement should be a time for togetherness, not conflict. 5. Changing communication styles and expectations. Now, let's talk about communication, because as we age, the way we communicate with our spouses often changes, and not always for the better. As people get older, especially when they retire, they may begin to communicate differently. Some might become more withdrawn or less expressive about their feelings, while others might feel frustrated because they're not getting the emotional connection they need from their partner. Diana, a 75-year-old woman, found that after retirement, her husband Steve became more quiet and less emotionally available. In the past, Steve had been very talkative, and they shared many conversations about their day, their dreams, and their future. However, after retiring, he seemed to pull away. Diana tried to talk to him about it, but he didn't always seem to understand what was bothering her. This change in communication patterns is common in marriages where one partner has retired, but it can be particularly difficult for the partner who still works or feels disconnected. Diana, feeling emotionally neglected, might begin to withdraw and feel resentment towards Steve, especially if she doesn't understand why he's behaving this way. In situations like these, it's crucial to rediscover how to communicate effectively. Couples who've been together for many years can fall into a pattern of taking each other for granted or assuming they know what the other person is thinking. But this can create emotional distance over time. Diana needs to express her feelings to Steve in a way that invites a healthy discussion, rather than making him feel like he's being attacked or blamed. Likewise, Steve may need to be more open to Diana's emotional needs, especially as they adjust to this new stage of life together. 6. Evolving emotional needs and shifting expectations. As we age, it's completely natural for our emotional needs to evolve. You may have noticed that, as time goes on, the things that once kept the relationship vibrant might not hold the same appeal. Maybe you're less interested in doing things together just for the sake of keeping busy, and instead, you start craving deeper, more meaningful interactions. Maybe you're more interested in having your own space and pursuing your own interests. These evolving emotional needs can sometimes feel like an emotional disconnect between partners, especially when one person hasn't fully understood or adapted to these changes. Take Elaine, for instance. Elaine, who is 70 years old, has been married to Frank for 45 years. As they entered their retirement years, Elaine began to feel like their relationship was no longer emotionally fulfilling. Frank, who had always been more focused on keeping busy with hobbies or projects around the house, didn't seem to understand that Elaine was craving deeper emotional intimacy. She wanted more conversations about their memories, dreams, and even fears as they approached their golden years. But Frank didn't see the importance of discussing such things anymore. Elaine began feeling isolated in her marriage, and it wasn't because Frank loved her any less. It was simply that their emotional needs had changed. Frank, not recognizing these shifts, continued to focus on physical tasks and routines, not realizing how disconnected Elaine felt emotionally. When emotional needs evolve, it's essential to understand and communicate what you both need from the relationship. Elaine could express to Frank that she desires more meaningful emotional engagement and doesn't just want him to focus on activities. Similarly, Frank could be more mindful of Elaine's need for deeper emotional connection and begin to initiate those kinds of conversations or quality time together. Having open and honest discussions about these changes can help partners grow closer rather than growing apart. Sometimes, you just need to rediscover what it is that brings fulfillment and joy to your emotional bond. 7. Rekindling intimacy and affection. Intimacy is another critical area that can evolve as couples get older. And for some couples, it's one of the most significant areas of change. In our younger years, intimacy was often about physical closeness and sexual activity. As we age, however, the physical aspects of intimacy might not have the same appeal. Some women experience a decline in libido, while others may feel physically more distant due to health changes, medications, or simply aging. However, this doesn't mean intimacy has to end. It's simply a shift in what intimacy looks like. Physical touch, for example, may become even more important. A gentle touch, a hug, holding hands, or simply sitting close together can reignite a sense of emotional closeness. The intimacy you shared in your younger years may not be the same, but it can be just as profound if you embrace the new ways of being close. It's about discovering the different forms of affection that work in this stage of life. Maggie and George, both in their early 70s, had been married for 50 years, but recently they both felt like their relationship lacked intimacy. They weren't arguing or dissatisfied, but the connection they once felt wasn't there anymore. They decided to make small changes. George would hold Maggie's hand while they watched TV, or they'd exchange a kiss before bed. At first, these small gestures felt awkward because it had been so long since they prioritized touch in their relationship. But soon, these simple acts rekindled the sense of affection they both had been missing. Intimacy, in this case, didn't have to be about sex. It was about closeness, connection, and rediscovering simple acts of affection. Maggie and George's story shows that intimacy is an important part of any relationship, no matter your age, and that small adjustments can reignite the spark that feels missing. 8. The power of rediscovering shared interests. Another wonderful way to reignite your relationship in later years is by rediscovering shared interests. As we age, we often develop our own individual hobbies and passions, which is great for personal fulfillment. However, we must also remember that shared experiences with your partner are a key component of maintaining a healthy, fulfilling marriage. For Linda and James, both in their late 60s, retirement had opened up new possibilities for how they spent their days. While James had his gardening and Linda enjoyed reading and meeting friends for coffee, they had started to drift apart when it came to spending quality time together. One day, Linda suggested they take up photography together. Neither of them had ever been passionate about it before, but they were both intrigued by the idea. They took a short class, bought cameras, and started going on weekend trips to explore new places and take pictures together. This new shared interest not only gave them something exciting to bond over, but also reinvigorated their connection. Their weekends were no longer spent in separate rooms. Linda and James now shared a creative and fun hobby that brought them closer. So, whether it's taking up a new hobby, signing up for a class together, or going on regular walks, rediscovering shared activities that you both enjoy can work wonders in strengthening your bond. As we've seen, there are many reasons why women may start to feel differently about their husbands as they grow older. Changes in health, finances, emotional needs, and intimacy can all contribute to a shift in the relationship dynamic. However, with open communication, empathy, and a willingness to grow together, these changes don't have to weaken the relationship, they can strengthen it. Remember that aging isn't just about getting older, it's about adapting to new phases of life. The more you're willing to adapt and understand the changes happening both within yourself and within your partner, the more fulfilling your relationship can become. Whether it's finding new ways to connect emotionally, rediscovering intimacy, or simply learning to communicate in ways that meet each other's evolving needs, you have the power to create a deeper, more loving connection in your later years. Don't let age or changes scare you. Embrace this new chapter and grow stronger together as a couple.